Hello again. This video will be about lists. Uh, we used to, when you're creating variables, to say, for example, something like this. X is equal to 5. So X is only one variable that has one value, which is 5. However, sometimes we would like one variable to be able to hold many values. In this case, the lists come or appear. And the general format of a list is this, which is the list here is the list name is equal to, and you put what are the values of that list. For instance, if I want to say here, let's say uh, like the names is equal to, I open these two brackets, and then I put the names that I want. So for example, Wasim, Wissam, who's my brother as well, and Firas. So these are three names. And if I want to print out the list itself, I'll say print names and I run and I will get Wasim, Wissam, and Firas. So these are the names that are in the list. All of these are strings. However, this is not necessarily the case. A list, for example, here, odd numbers. This is a list that contain numbers 1, 3, 5, 7, and 8, and these are odd numbers. Letter grades A, B, C, D, F, all of them are strings. The individual elements in the list, they are strings. Combined info, this list has the first item, the second item, and it has 76. So it has a string as the first item, another string as the second item, and 76 as the third item. So strings and the number. And every item the items are separated by commas. So now this list has 3 items. Now, uh, what can you do with lists? Lists are very beneficial for many reasons. These are two operators that are not that important, but I will mention them for completeness, which is repeating the list. So these two operators, which are the multiplication and the addition, you can multiply a list by a number. For example, if you multiplied the list by 2, you are duplicating the list. So in this case, if I said grades, which has the value ABC times 2, then the answer will be ABC, ABC. So this is equivalent to ABC, ABC, and then I'm storing it in the list called repeated grades. So if I print out repeated grades, the answer will be ABC, ABC, which is nothing but the grades list repeated twice. If I have the concatenating the list, which is the plus operator, then I am adding two lists to each other. And you will see a lot of similarities between the list operations and the string operations. So also when we dealt with the strings, we have the multiplication operator. It repeats the string multiple times. We also had the plus operator that appends two strings together. So in this example, the grades is equal to ABCD. Grades underscore P, they are A plus B plus C plus D plus. If I said grades plus grades underscore P, as if I am concatenating A, B, C, D with A plus B plus C plus D plus. So I'll store the result in all grades, and then if I print out all grades, I will see all this list together. So I'll give here an example, a quick example, and we move on. So let's say I have names, Wasim, Wissam, Firas. I have grades, and they are the letter grades. Wasim is the smartest, so he gets 100 in the grades. Wissam, all of them are smart. So let's say 95 and then 90. I can print out the names, print out the grades, but now what I want to do, I want to put them together. Let's say I'll create a new list. It's called names and the grades. It's equal to names plus grades. So, and I want to print out names and grades. So this is my program. I have a list of names. It has 3 strings. I have a list of grades. They have 3 numbers, where by design, I have in mind that the first item in names correspond to the first grade in grades. The second name corresponds to the second grade. The third name corresponds to the third grade. So in my mind, and this is by design, Wasim has a grade of 100, Wissam has a grade of 95, Firas has a grade of 90. And then I create a new variable and it's equal to names, which are these values, and then grades. Grades are these values, and I add them together and I will get the concatenation of both. So this is the new list, which is called names and grades. So it has the values in names and then the values in grades. The multiplication operator, again, it repeats. List indexing and the length, also very similar to string, so I will not spend much time on it. I will remove this, and then I can say something like names at 0. So names at 0 gives me the first item in the list, which is called names. So this has, the first element has index 0, second index 1, the third index 2, and so on. This is 0, 1, 2. So if I'm outputting names at 0, I mean I am interested in Wasim. Okay, and if I put, for instance, comma, let's say got, then comma, I want to get the grade of Wasim, so it's grades at 0. So now if I run, Wasim got 100. So this is names at 0, which is the first element in names, got is a string, and then grades at 0, it's the first item in grades. I can do the same for any of them. So for example, 0, 1, 2, so I'm looking for 2, got 2. So we said they are corresponding to each other. So run, then Firas got 90. So names at 2, it's this item, because if I count 0, 1, 2, so it's the third item. And here I have 0, 0, 1, 2, so 90 is the this item as well. Um, Similar to strings, I can start 0, 1, 2, or the other way around. So this will be -1, -2, -3. Also, there is one important operator or function. It's called len, which is the length of something. Before we used to say what's the length of the string. Now I can say what's the length of names. And the length of names in this case, as if I'm saying how many elements does names contain. So in this case, it contains 3 elements. Same for grades. It contains 3 elements. So I get the answer 3. And what's the index of the last element from before? So let's assume I have names. I don't know how many elements there are in names, but I want to get the last element in names. So I know that the last element in names is the length of names minus 1. Because the length of names is 3, minus 1 is 2. So 2 is the index of the last element. So in this case, I'm getting Firas. Okay, and then the slicing, it's also extremely similar to uh, strings. If I want to get a piece of the list, I will say the list name and I'll say start and end. In this case, start is what is that the element in the string, the position of that element, and then sorry, I got a phone call. Uh, yes, so for example here, if grades is equal to A, B, C, D, and I'm saying grades 1 colon 3, then 1, this will be, this is element 1, and 3 exclusive, 1 inclusive, so I'm looking for B and C. Similar to strings again. Uh, excuse me, the in operator, it checks if there is an item inside the list. For instance, here I can check is Wasim in the list which is called names. So, for example, I can do something like this: Wasim in names. And this is supposed to give me what? This whole thing, it's either true or false. So this is supposed to give me true because Wasim is in names. Let's assume I put the W as an uppercase. I run again. It gives me false. Normally, such a condition, I don't print it out. It's unuseful to print it out. Normally, I put it as part of an if statement, like if this string is inside the list, then do this and that. Uh, Okay, so okay. Uh, So let me go back to the slides. So the in operator, and these are some built-in methods that come in handy. Let's assume you have a list and you want to add an item to the end of the list. So what do you do? So for example, I have names is equal to that, and then I want to say names dot append Mike, and then I want to print out names. I run and I will get, this is the list now, Wasim, Wissam, Firas, and Mike. So I added Mike to the end of the list. I can also add some grade for Mike. So let's assume grades dot append, let's say Mike is a bad student. I append 50. So I only outputted names. I will also output the grades. I run, and then I have, this is the names, and these are the grades. A backslash n, by the way, it just puts an enter sign. Okay, so list dot index, it returns, it searches for this item inside the list, and then it gives me back the index of this item in the list. So for example, if I am looking for Wissam in the list called names, I will get the index of Wissam. So let's try it out. So I will remove these again. All of these are for demo purposes. I want to say the name of the list dot index, and index, I'm looking for what? So inside index, let's say I'm looking for Wissam. I am supposed to get, in this case, 1, because Wissam is found at index 1. Insert, if I want to insert a certain element in a certain position. So I want to insert Mike in the end, I do append. If I want to insert Mike to be in the second place, so I want, this is index 0, I want to add it at index 1, for instance, then I will say, okay, I want names dot insert, and I want to insert, first comes where you want to insert it, and then the index first, and then the item. So I want to insert at index 1, and I want the item to be the string Mike. And this, I do not print out this, I do it as a separate statement, and then I print out names to see the answer. Okay, so now Mike is inserted at index 1, and everything else, Wissam and Firas, they are pushed by one element to the right. This is for insert. For sort, you can sort the list. So here, Wasim, Wissam, Firas, they are not sorted. So I can say dot sort, and that's it. And I print out names. So you see now that names, they are Firas, Wasim, Wissam. Sorting happens in alphabetical order if the content of the list, they are strings. Let's give an example for sorting grades. So grades.sort, and I want to output grades. So in this case, you will see them in ascending order. So now grades, it is 90, 9500, and the grades itself list changed. So now grades is not anymore 195, 90, it is 90, 95, 100. So you have to be careful if you want to retain the original list or not. Reverse, the same idea, you reverse the list. Remove, you remove a certain item from the list. Pop, you remove the last item from the list and you return it. So normally they use pop without an index, but you can add an index to it if you want to remove a certain element in the list. So it removes the element at a specified index, and it returns the element. So let's do these three very fast. So let's assume a grades dot reverse, and then I output the grades. Now grades, they are 90, 95, 100, but not because they are sorted. Again, it's because, let me change the grade just to show you that it's the reverse of them. 95. Okay, so it is I reverse the grades. So now 95, you see here the answer is in the beginning, then 90, then 100. If I want to remove a certain item, so let's assume I said grades dot remove. What do you want to remove? You remove an item. Remove, you specify the name of the item, or what is the item you want to remove, and you remove the first occurrence of that item. So I want to remove 90 from the list of grades. So run it. So now see that grades has 195. Let's give an example for names. I want to remove for example, Wissam. You need to specify it as a string, okay? And then I want to print out the new list. So now you see the new list has Wissam removed from it. Pop, same idea. Again, pop, because it returns a value, I can immediately say names dot pop the element, and this way I'm only outputting the element that I popped, and then I want to print names. So what happens here? So names dot pop, it removes the last element in the list, which is Firas, and then returns it. So this is why I can see it on the screen using print. And then print out names. It should print out the names without Firas. Okay, so Firas is the element that is returned, and then this is the new list. Mutable lists, it is to say that when you do any operations on the list actually changes. So the original string list was ABCD. I add to it fail. I print out the list, I see fail, it is part of the list. It is not like strings, you remember? Always when you do operations on strings, you return a new string. Here, no. If you do an operation on the list, you change the list itself. And this is another example on lists where you can, by the way, here A1 to 3, I am extracting 11 and 12. I can change only this in the list. So in the list, I can change one element in the list. For instance, here, I can say names at 0 is equal to Wasim al-Hajj. Okay. And then I want to print out names. So I run the output. So you see now the list is Wasim al-Hajj, Wissam, and Firas. So I can change really a complete element in the list. I can also change two elements if I want. So if I want from 0 to 2, it means I want to change the 0 and the 1. So I will say they are equal to, this will be also a list. It is equal to Wissam al-Hajj, Wasim al-Hajj, and Wissam al-Hajj. And now I changed two items in the list, but one shot, okay? So I change them one shot as if I'm saying the elements at 0 and 1 make them this element and this element. And last but not least, nested lists. I can have one of the items in the list to be another list. So in this case, if grades is equal to that, then grades has one item, 2, 3, 4, and 5, but item 5 is a whole list. So this is allowed. And if I want to get the length of grades, I see the grades has 5 elements. But if I want to get the grades at 4, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, so this is the element at index 4 is the following. So it happens that this element is not a normal string, is a list. If I want to access any element within this list, then I'll do that. So I want the grades at 4 first. So this gives me the list. At 1, it gives me the first element in that list. Okay, so this is normally called two-dimensional list, or it is used to do two-dimensional lists or matrices. In this case, I have grades has only two elements. It has the following and the following, but it just happened that these two elements are lists on their own. So if I want to get the size of the grades, the size is only 2, or the length of it is 2. And if I want to do grades 1, 2, so I'll separate them. So first I analyze this one, and this one says I want the grades at 1. So this gives me this element. Because this element is a list, I can do at 2. So I want the 0, the one that second element in that list, and this gives me C plus. I hope this was helpful.